In this week's pod, we were joined by Vicky Emerson to discuss applied AI from beginners to pros. Vicky has many years of experience as a teacher and found herself in the technology and data space in the last 4 years. She has recently embarked on a new journey, training herself and the next generation in the use of AI. Now, Vicky was great, Martin, because she knows far more advanced areas of AI than she spoke about. But I think it was great that we peeled back the layers and brought it back to basics, because I think we've been quite fortunate in a bit of an echo chamber for the past 12, 18 months, speaking to people in the data, digital, and AI space. And we have to remember that there are people just starting out on their journey. And so I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. How did you find it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the right thing. She made the subject really accessible, which is something that's quite difficult in the space. She talks a lot about some of the challenges of being a teacher in this space, particularly just keeping up with the latest technology. You know, we've seen so many innovations just in the last week. So keeping on top of that, some of her tips and tricks around that were really interesting. She has some really good analogies about, just finding a problem and how AI can help with that. Just really kind of bringing it down a level. How about you? What were your kind of main takeaways from the episode?
Yeah, again, I think you covered most of them, but if I had to add to what you were saying there, I think, her overriding sort of view is have fun with it. You know, don't view it as something that's daunting. I don't think, well, certainly the expectation she set is that you don't have to become an expert. You just have to know how to use the technology, because we spoke quite a lot around prompting as well,
Yeah.
because the main form of AI is large language models, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whichever one you're using, right? Copilot. So yeah, just have fun with it was the main thing that I took from Vicky, and be curious as well. Understand the tech. But anyway, we'll let the listeners make their own mind up, as we always say. We'll leave it there. So keep listening, keep liking, and keep paying it forward. Hello, project people, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Project Chatter podcast. It's always good to have you with us. And on this episode, you may have guessed Novell, but we have got the return of Martin after missing an episode. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Yeah, sorry to miss the last one. It was very good. I missed out on this amazing moment where you both said the same word together and slightly blew Tim's mind. So sorry for missing that. How's things with you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Busy this side. But yeah, Tim was great. Marco stepped in well to co-host as well, so it was good fun. I think we should put out an email for have you seen Val at gmail.com or at projectchatterpodcast.com or something like that, because he's gone missing. But we hope you're well, Val. We won't miss you too much, but it's amazing to have another fantastic guest on the podcast. Vicky Emerson, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. All the better for having you on the pod. It's been a long time coming, I think. We've been chatting for quite some time in the background, and you have some fantastic bits that you put out on LinkedIn, and I know you inspire a lot of people by what you've been finding and sharing with the community. So, yeah, I'm really excited to have you on the show and see where this one goes. But before we get into it, for those that don't know you and your background, do you mind sharing with the listeners your career story to date and where you are now?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Dale. Yeah. So I've been seasoned teacher for 19 years. I've been working in further and higher education. And then for the last 4 years, I've been more heavily involved in technology and teaching different technological programs, everything from data analytics to data engineering, and really interested in sort of the field of AI and computer science. So for the last 4 years, I've sort of honed my teaching skills into that direction. And I really enjoy helping people find their pathway in anything digital and AI. So yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. So, teaching, did you always want to get into teaching? Because when I look back and I go, there's some teachers that really inspire you. Was there like one teacher that really inspired you, or a handful that got you, that sort of inspired you to get into teaching?
Oh, absolutely not. I had the most rubbish teachers in public school that were known to man. Literally, I got to like sort of 14, 15, and all most of my teachers, but about one sort of had given up on me. I was, I'm 42 now. They were like, oh, she's not going to get good grades. I'd got predicted grades that weren't that great. And then I went and did my GCSEs, and I surprised myself, to be fair, because I actually got really good grades. I got like lots of A's,
Mm.
and B's and C's, which none of them were predicted, by the way. So that's the education system, egg boxing children, FYI, and literally got lots of grades that were unpredicted. And all of a sudden, all of the teachers, when I went to collect my grades, I'll never forget, when I was 16, was like, "Oh, have you thought about A levels?" My my family couldn't really afford for me to go to college and university and fund any of that. So I went and took a job. I did an apprenticeship. It's kind of a great route for me. It didn't feel like it at the time. I felt like it was I felt felt a little bit downtrodden with it, but it was kind of the best journey, because when you ask the question, did I meet a teacher or somebody that inspired me? The assessor that came out, that were known at the time with MVQs and apprenticeships, came out, and this person sort of inspired me. I wanted to be like this person. I was able to do all these different MVQs and do lots of different qualifications, and it was funded, and I could work and earn money. And although it wasn't a lot of money per week, it was amazing to sort of earn money and be educated at the same time. So it was great for me, and that gave me a route into university eventually, and working at the same time, and become a lot more than what I thought it was going to be, become a teacher, and become sort of a curriculum developer, and then all the way up to sort of doing like literally just recently I've been accepted at the University of York to do a master's in computer science and AI, a
Wow.
second master's, all because of a simple apprenticeship level 2 when I was 16 years old, and that's where it came from. So it was the assessor that inspired me more than kind of public school teachers. It was actually the assessor that inspired me to be more in my life.
Wow. And I'm sure those that have just listened to what you just said have been inspired as well, because it sounds like education just runs through your veins, whether you are teaching or whether you're learning, and it's a continuous journey that we are continuously on. And then what pivoted you into the tech space? What sort of made you go, oh, I need to figure out what's going on here with data and AI?
Well, I think I'd always been really interested in technology. So when I started working at, it was Nottingham College. It was New College Nottingham at the time. I was teaching some basic sort of ICT modules, so information communication technology modules. Always really interested in sort of bridging that divide with technology. And as my career developed, it sort of fell away a little bit, because I was sort of taking a different trajectory in teaching and everything. But then I came across a company that were really sort of big in tech at the time, projecting success, and yeah, it was really interesting and fascinating to see like loads of different methodologies and meeting great people. I met you, Dale, through it, and it was really, really interesting to see sort of how technology was evolving, and particularly for sort of the education space, and from a teacher to a learner's perspective, how technology can really help you to develop, especially with generative AI. It's been absolutely fascinating. I think that the journey for the last 4 years has probably been the most rewarding for me, in terms of technology, and seeing, sort of how to make data-driven decisions. I literally 2 years ago became an apprentice again after all of my qualifications, and did a data analytics apprenticeship. Become completely qualified in data analytics. So I was so fascinated and so enthralled with the idea of data analytics and technology, that I felt that, you know, I want to be one of those people that can make data-driven decisions. So yeah, it's been a fascinating journey for the last 4 years, and I'm really excited about where it's going to take me in the future as well, particularly around sort of the artificial space, in terms of large language models and natural language programming. Artificial intelligence, when people say it, it's such a broad term. It covers so much that you guys know. And, you know, just doing data analytics is just one very, very small subset of such a big space that, you know, if you start to get into technology, you'll find a passion for something within it. And my advice is, like, what I'm doing is just follow your passion. You're not going to be an expert in everything. And you're not going to sort of give yourself a hard time. Just enjoy the things that you really enjoy. So I really love computer vision, for example, and you know, and seeing where that space takes me.
It's one of those industries that's forever changing. Like one of the challenges for any teacher, you know, be it an English teacher or a maths teacher, is staying relevant. You know, every year you get older, the kids get younger. You know, just in a field such as this, how do you go about keeping your training materials, your methodologies up to date in such a ever evolving field such as AI? You know, just in the last week we've had Llama 3 being introduced, and you know, that's a big rival to ChatGPT. You know, I saw this week Mplan produce some really interesting generative AI schedules. You know, that's just in the last week. How do you keep your learning up to date in such an ever changing field?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, because I think as a teacher in any field, it is so, Martin, you like here, it's so difficult, because for all teachers, you've got to have, like, you know, continuous professional development. You've got to keep adding to those fields of, you know, what you're reading, what you're doing, what you're learning. I think in this field it's even harder to be an educator because it's so emergent. For me, literally getting accepted for the masters in computer science and artificial intelligence has done it for me. I think, like, I've got a big green tick there. But but otherwise, I think for me it's keeping current with what's going on social media, because social media trends can be really bad, but they can be really good in a lot of ways. There's a lot going on LinkedIn right now that can really help you to understand. You know, for example, you mentioned Llama. The news on Llama actually hit quicker on LinkedIn than it hit anywhere else. You know, social media, emails, anywhere else. So, you know, keeping relevant and keeping up to date with sort of social media in that context is really important. That's not to say that everyone should just be sitting on social media all the time, because that'd just be, you know, that's where we don't want to be. But for me, like yesterday, I went to Google DeepMind, and we were talking about the new Gemini model. Can't say a lot more than that, but actually networking with relevant people and people in the industry and different organizations. It's amazing if you start to actually reach out to the actual vendors like Microsoft, Google. They will actually invite you there to talk to them about their models and about how they can enhance them and all of the great stuff that they're doing, because it's so emergent and people don't actually believe it. But for me, I'm so excited about this space and technology that I just keep talking and keep sending messages, and people are messaging back from, you know, people from Google are messaging back saying, yeah, come and see us and we'll have a chat. And I never thought that'd be possible, because how I see Google is like watching. Did you ever see the movie like The Internship with like Owen Wilson? And so I took Liam, my partner, me and him, a bit of a double act, and I said, "Oh, can my partner Liam come?" And we were sort of making jokes all day about sort of him saying to everyone he was going to be the intern. They all thought it was hilarious there yesterday, by the way. They thought he was hilarious, more than me. Um, um, and we just kind of like, it's fascinating that there is that emergent, that there's so much out there where you feel it's untouchable. Like for somebody like me 4 years ago, I was meeting people that I couldn't understand anything they were saying. Some of the abbreviations and the terminology they were coming out, I didn't get it with tech at all. And I think that it still goes on a lot in technology, where there's a lot of tech speech that almost sort of puts barriers up for a lot of people to sort of get involved, or want to get involved, or interest them. I think it's about breaking those barriers down, because if I can, how I see is, if I can be me and I can reach out to a company like Google and say, "Hey, can I come along and talk to you about your incredible model?" And they say yes, then I think anybody can get involved in technology, and I think people should.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Well, first off, I'll say Liam is great and fantastic, but don't tell him you're more fantastic. So, we'll leave it at
Okay,
that.
I'll tell him. Just
The other, thanks. The other point I think is worth noting on what you said there is that we've all heard it before. If you don't ask, you don't get. And that's a lesson for everyone listening, is just ask, and you never know where it could lead for you. And so it's amazing that you got to spend a day with Google and ask them questions and learn, and them sharing with you. That's awesome. And so for others out there, that's inspirational as well. So thank you for sharing that. But I know previously, prior to hitting record, you did want to touch on, in this episode, you wanted to share with everyone on how to start out, because you alluded to there where it can be quite daunting with all this. It's almost like an alien language to people that don't understand it. And it's a journey that you have to go on. And it's about breaking down those barriers, because let's face it, AI is here to stay in whichever form you want to call it, because it's not just large language models, right? There's other things. I mean, you mentioned computer vision, Computer vision is English that people can understand, but I guarantee you there's a lot of people that actually don't know what computer vision is, with us just talking about it now. So if there's someone that's brand new to this and they're going, I really don't know where to start, what would your advice be?
Oh, call me, Dale. Call me,
What's
and
your
I'll
number?
get
Do you want to put on the
started.
podcast?
I feel like there's sort of you remember the old sort of yellow, the yell, was it the yell pages, or what was the pages? And there was like a proper good caption to it,
So
to the
in South
number.
Africa, we had the yellow pages at the back, but in the front, you had the normal phone numbers in the grey
Yeah, yeah,
pages. So I don't know what you had here. When I
yeah.
got here, the landline telephone was done. So I don't know. Martin might know.
Um,
What did you have, Martin? What phone?
Yeah, we had yellow pages. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had the BT phone book as well.
I'd say that it's all about sort of starting small, and like with any kind of new concept, it's starting small. So, and it's always, and that kind of sounds derogatory in the sense of, starting small, but actually just starting with one concept and moving from there. You've not got to beat yourself up that you need to know it all, because it's such a big space. I think this is something that I've really picked up on in the last 4 years. There's so much pressure put on you to absolutely know it all, and to be the best at everything, and to be ahead of the curve, just these different terminologies that have been used. And actually, it's all about you and your journey. And I think that if you can start off small in the sense of find something that you're interested in, or find a problem. You know, you don't even need to go looking for a problem. We've all got problems every day. Is it your bills personally? Is it something going on in your home? Is it that you've got too many emails at work? It's just find some sort of problem. If you've got this ridiculously large spreadsheet that you want to reduce and deal with, is it a survey that you send out to the staff? It could be absolutely anything, but find sort of some sort of problem and turn it into a problem statement, as in, so here is my problem and I want to solve it. And this problem is taking you a certain amount of time, because that is why it's a problem. And it wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't taking you a certain amount of time. So say, right, so with this problem, it takes me X amount of time. I'm gonna try and look for a quicker solution to deal with this problem. And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be in your work setting necessarily. It can be in your personal life. And you can say, right, okay, so how am I going to deal with that? It can even be down to your inbox. And I was I was talking to a friend the other day, and they've got this inbox that they've had since they were 16. It's got like 90,000. It's like a Hotmail account. It's got like 90,000 emails in it now because they've never sorted it out. And they go into this inbox and they find it a problem because they're not dealing with it. So that it bothers them, a little bit OCD like me, but it bothers them. So, there are solutions out there. So go looking for the solutions. Use AI to try and help find those solutions with a very small problem. Go out there and find a solution. It could be automatically putting, as simple as putting some of the spam emails into a junk email. Unfortunately, my solution ended up putting the Project Chatter podcast into the spam. So there's a little fault there, but these things happen.
That's probably
So
where it belongs, in the junk box, Project Chatter.
So literally, Dale, I mean, for all your listeners, Dale rang. He's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I'm great." And I'm thinking, "Oh, Dale just wants to chat." No, I'm supposed to be live, but it went into spam. So my AI works so well that it puts Dale in spam.
Yeah, it's actually not artificial. It's just intelligence. It knows
It's just
that,
intelligent.
yeah, the Project Chatter goes into junk.
But seriously, it's going back to it, thinking about like small problem statements. I think one of the biggest barriers is there's so many people out there that are like trying to take over the world with this stuff. And I'm not talking like, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they're doing their thing. Well done them. But, there's too many there's too many voices out there that are using really big words and big terminology that most of the time don't even know what they're talking about. And I think that if you can just become I think there's a big difference between like expert and a know-it-all. And there's a really fine line. Be the expert, don't be the know-it-all. Don't just keep talking saying loads of different words because it sounds really good. Actually understand what you're talking about, and actually become a master of a craft. And I think whether it's technology or any other sort of industry, I think that's so important. So for me, just understanding how to work with generative AI, for example, Chat GPT, how to prompt really good is so important. Going to Google yesterday, it was fascinating to be around like lots of people that have been trying out prompt engineering, and how many people are actually failing at it, and how they can't get around prompting because they're not prompting in the right way. It is like a new field. Prompt engineering is actually a real thing that even Google are recognizing, because they're talking around, if you say this, it will do this. If you don't say this, it won't do this. And it's really quite binary, and it's really quite fascinating. And I think that if you can just be an expert in some sort of generative AI, or if you can automate loads of tasks like with Power Automate or Zapier or any of these kind of tools, I think people will have the edge. But I think trying to take on the whole landscape of digital and AI will be really, really difficult because it's so broad and it's so vast.
Yeah,
So,
no.
so when you are
So
when
go
you
ahead,
are
Mark.
doing your training courses, how do you tailor your approach to learners with different levels of expertise? You know, you're probably going to have people who can reel off a few buzzwords, Gen AI, you know, people
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
myself and Dale, to people who, you know, actually know what they're talking about, to people who just have absolutely no idea but want to try to learn. So what are the things that you sort of look for in to try and decipher people's levels, and then before you start to go into those
Yeah.
into your training?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So I think in the beginning, before all training, it's really key to get sort of a good landscape around the individual learner. So getting a skill scan to understand and sort of meet with them to understand where they're at in the landscape, because certain training might not be relevant for them. They could be sort of, they could be they might need to be recommended for a much higher level, or they might be interested in something else, but they just kind of don't know it yet. And that's what our job is, as educators. But for me, I always teach, and it was interesting yesterday because I met loads of different teachers yesterday and they're from primary and secondary level, and they all agreed that they teach from the ceiling down. So they teach, the highest they can teach, and they bring it down. And yet I've always taught from the ground up. So especially with sort of computer science and AI, I think it's really, really important to teach from ground all the way up, because if somebody's what my experience has shown me is if somebody's adept with a topic already, they actually like the refresher anyway. Usually 9 times out of 10, they like to, like, yeah, it kind of like it builds them up, and it allows them to fly. But for most people I've met, especially in the last few years, they like the ground to ceiling rather than from the ceiling to the ground. So starting from the bottom and working our way up quite progressively, really quickly. For example, like programming. If you're going to teach programming, I wouldn't teach from the ceiling down. I would, if it's a course for programming for beginners, for example, I'd go from the ground up and see where it takes us, and always have sort of extra activities for people that are a little bit more experienced already to take on while everybody else is learning the core concepts.
I do like that analogy, Vicky, from the ground up, because I guess that leads me on to asking, if we are from the ground up, are there like 3, 4, 5 sort of key cornerstones that you'd recommend? You mentioned programming. I know another one that is beneficial is statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Perhaps another one is, um, other than programming languages, I guess, understanding how to visualize the data as well,
Yeah,
because you're then starting to begin to take the data and transform it. So
yeah.
understanding the process of taking data from one state to the next. So are there, like I say, are there 3, 4, or 5 cornerstones that you'd say, start here? This is actually, what you should be focusing on if you ground up, and then specializing in a certain stream if you want to
Mm-hmm.
go down the route of programming, data science,
Yeah,
or if you want to just understand the basics and learn how to prompt better. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm not ashamed to say that starting my so this is my like I'm doing my second masters now, and it's in, as I've mentioned, computer science and artificial intelligence. And the first thing University of York sent to me is just update your basic computer skills. And I thought that was fascinating. You know, they've accepted me unequivocally for this, you know, master's program that sounds pretty intense. And they've asked me to do a free course. I can share the link with you guys as well because everyone can access it. It's really cool. Just computer basics. Just refresh your skills on computer basics. And then the next course was computer science. So I'd say for anyone starting out, I'd say from ground up, computer basics. Because even if you think you know it all, I thought I knew it all. But then when I did that computer basics course, it was completely free. I thought, oh yeah, I've picked that up. That was really cool. And it just refreshed me and it's got me into the headspace. Computer science as well, just computer science for beginners, understanding you know, Dale, what is an algorithm? I can ask Liam this now, and Liam is able to explain really well because I ask him every day what an algorithm is, and he talks it through when he's making a cup of tea. So, Dale, what is an algorithm?
Or what would Liam's answer be for what is an algorithm?
He's really quite funny. He goes, "It's a set of steps. It's a set of steps to get to a solution."
Yeah.
And
No,
it's quite
that's
right.
spot on, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
spot
great.
on. It's spot
Yeah.
on. And this little free course, so we literally we're just proper geeks and idiots. We like sit watching this stuff, and we do it together. And he's there. He's picking it all up, bless him. And for the listeners, like Liam has like lived his life as a plumber, and he's fascinated with all of this stuff. So he's completely like immersed in it. He's probably better. He's going to become better than me. He's like going to take over the world, isn't he?
Well, you know, he's probably going to invent AI robotics or mechatronics or something. You know.
Imagine
He's
leave
got
us
a
all
trade behind him
behind,
too.
Yeah,
but we
exactly.
know the goal. So yeah, so you know, just understanding exactly what an algorithm is, and I think with the computer science basics, is it will help with terminology. The only terminology you need is some of those computer science basics, and then it can take you on that journey. I think then seeing the scope of it and thinking that if you imagine that the Earth or the moon of sort of technology is the whole moon is artificial intelligence. This is how I see it. The whole moon is artificial intelligence. And then you've got like little moons. I'm going a little bit sort of June, being quite current. Little moons. You've got data analytics, you've got data science, you've got machine learning, you've got all of these little moons inside of this big moon. And it's button moon. So there you are.
There we go. There's a
There you
visual.
are. There you are. So yeah, I'd say start from don't be frightened to go back to complete basics. I think it's been the most refreshing thing for me, even though I did a whole sort of apprenticeship in data analytics and learnt the hard way and started teaching it as well. For me, going back to basics was the best thing I ever did because it's actually grounded me to accelerate from there. And I think that that's really important for everyone. You don't need all these big words. You don't need all this big terminology. You do not need all these abbreviations. You can work with technology. You do not have to be a prompt engineer. You can just type words into some models and they will give you some outputs that will make you absolutely marvelous. So, you know, it's inclusive and it's open to everyone. So give it a go.
Yeah, no, it's awesome that you say that. And you're right. The algorithm example is actually spot on because we use the word algorithm all the time these days, right? Oh, the algorithm, the algorithm, the algorithm. And there's probably a whole bunch of people going, what the is an algorithm?
The algorithm.
Yeah. So I love the
Yeah,
fact that you've gone, actually, it's just some steps that the computer follows, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's just
Um,
zeros and ones.
yeah,
Zeros and
exactly.
ones. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
you know, here, I usually explain it. It's a set of instructions that you've given the computer to do something.
Absolutely.
And then people get it, right? They understand it. But we
Mhm.
forget, actually, that not everyone understands what we're saying. And Martin and I used to talk about this a lot when, you know, we we're still in the project controls geek phase, and you have all these various acronyms and KPIs and names, and earned values have got stuff, and NEC contracts have things, and you know what you're talking about. But if someone not in the project world would be listening in, they think you're talking alien. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good that we demystify some of these things as well. Um, from what you're saying, I think you're particularly talking about the likes of your chat GPTs, your large language models, because you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
prompt engineering and the like. And I think that's probably the main form of AI that most people are using today. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can focus in on that in terms of how to begin and how to start, because we touched on it a little bit in our last episode with Tim Creasy around, having to be good, and people are getting better at prompting. And
Yeah.
as a result, that's actually getting us to do, I think, two things. One, it's getting us to actually understand and be aware of our thought processes, because we now have to tell the computer what we're thinking and asking for quite succinctly and quite accurately. And so you're improving on your language skill, your communication,
Mm-hmm.
your written language. And I said on the last episode that if we're starting to realize that if we use better English to get a better result from a computer, maybe the humans that we talk to and interact with will respond better if we communicate better as well. So I think
100%.
it's improving our communication, but also I think it's getting to understand how we think and writing it down. Because if you think about it, if you drive in your car on a route that you're familiar with, let's say it's the school run, or if you drive to work or whatever it is, you don't actually have to think about everything you do in the car, when you accelerate, when you brake, when you indicate, all those types of things. But if you actually had to stop yourself and write all of it down on a very, very familiar route, you'd have to actually really stop and think, what do I do? When do I do it? How do I do it?
Mm.
But it's
And that's an
subconsciously.
algorithm, Dale.
Exactly. That's an algorithm, right? There you go. That's an algorithm. So I think it's fantastic that we're starting to really go into this, and that, prompt engineering is actually a thing that Google's looking at as well, and going, this is it's actually a skill, that
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to pick up. I guess my question for you is, for those that are, and although we may have been using it, I use the royal we, but most of the people I speak to have been using the likes of ChatGPT for quite some time now. Maybe they've been using Bard and now Gemini. Copilot is almost on everyone's. If you're using Windows, it's on everyone's
Mm-hmm.
little bottom right. Most people have
Mm-hmm.
Copilot. People can start playing around with that. But if someone was starting out for the first time, or maybe they've just started, what, I guess, would be some of the tips and tricks you would give to them to go, this is how you should think when you're prompting for something?
It's a really great question. I'd say don't before we even start prompting, don't pay for anything. There's too much out there for free. So just have a play. It's experience that will teach you so much more than having to sort of pay a subscription, because there's a lot out there as well that will try and encourage you, even ChatGPT, to pay. But actually, you can use Claude, you can use Copilot, you can use ChatGPT, you can use all of these services for free to give it a good go and find what works best for you. But I'd say when it comes to prompting specifically, the best example I've got is actually talking to any of these models, because that is what they are. Because when we say model, that's again a concept that many people won't understand. So if you're talking to ChatGPT, that is a model. If you're talking to Claude, that is a model. If you're talking to any of these generative services, if you like, be yourself. Don't feel that you've got to talk in a certain way or put any sort of act on. Just literally, I found that, and literally I'm going to go back to him again. Liam is the best prompt engineer on the earth, because I watch him talk to ChatGPT and he gets the best responses because he talks to it like a human. he can't understand something. So he says, talk to me like I am 12 and explain this concept. And it does it. You know, it doesn't, there's no trickery, there's no foolery. This is literally just be yourself with prompting, and you will get the best results. If you genuinely ask it to do something you want it to do. So, for example, let me think of something. So I'm a HR assistant and I want to send out I want to be polite and I want to send out some rejection letters. The candidates have all been great, you know, being really honest and being really truthful, but without giving any confidential information away. It will come up with a really nice response that you've not got to actually think of straight off the bat. So being really obvious, open, talking simply will allow the model to talk back to you in that manner completely.
Just out of interest, do you put please and thank you in your prompts?
100%, because if it ever turns into Skynet, we ain't getting killed, are we? You know what I'm saying? they're gonna look at us and they're gonna go, yeah, they were polite. Those ones were. Think
Quite
about
right.
it. Think about
It's
it.
good. You know, shows you're a polite person.
Yeah, but I do believe that as these large language models evolve, I think that if we aren't polite and we don't remind ourselves about who we are as well, ethically, I think that the world will become more of a negative place. Remember that we are training these models all of the time, and if we are not polite, they will learn not to be polite equally. And we are training the generations, behind us not to be polite as well. And it's hard enough without AI models to train kids to be polite. So, I think that all the help we can give is a good thing. But again, there is the Skynet thing. If they turn into Terminator,
Funny.
Martin, Dale, Vicky, Liam was polite. Everyone else didn't use please. Well, we all saw what happened in Terminator 3, didn't we?
Well, there you have it. So a question linked to this. My very basic understanding of prompting. What's the impact of grammar? How important is it in your view?
What, from the inputting phase or from it coming back out?
Inputting.
Not at all. It's pretty good. I mean, I've been working with, in particular, I've been working with OpenAI for 2 years. So I built my first model in OpenAI before ChatGPT was launched in the November of last year. So my models are kind of the cousins of ChatGPT. Some of them are arch enemies. Some of them get along. It's weird. But these generative AI tools are really good on picking up on spelling mistakes, and they don't correct them. They just can read through them because, and now I am going to get really technical. All that's happening when you are putting in a prompt is the model is looking at this prompt and it's breaking it down into numbers and it's coming up with the most probable response. So it's able to work beyond any spelling errors and grammar, etc. Most of the time.
But is the grammar really important? The way someone explained it to me was like every word matters. So if you say what, it knows to look up, a specific definition. So spelling I can understand, but is the grammar, how important is that? Is it not as important as you might think, or
it depends? I think it depends on the context. I think that it depends on what you're asking. And I think that if you're not getting the output that you're expecting, that you need to rephrase, and you should know it quite quickly. So it's quite straightforward. So even if the grammar is out, I've not personally experienced issues with grammar. We call it in teaching, we do call it SPAG, so spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So I've not found an issue, any issues, to be fair, with spelling, punctuation, and grammar. However, if there's a certain way of phrasing something and it's not giving you the output that you're desiring, it is just a case of a quick rephrasing. It shouldn't. I personally don't think that every word matters. I think in it's just the context.
No, that's good. It makes it a whole lot more accessible for people,
Absolutely.
which is always good, which is exactly what you want. If I move the conversation slightly towards the future, and as a teacher in an ever evolving industry, how do you envision the future of AI education? What do you imagine the teacher in 10 years' time telling to their pupils? Do you think it will still be quite bottom up? Do you think, I don't know, what's your view?
Yeah, I see a world where for me, with curriculum, I'm a big advocate of I believe that we as an educator of 19 years, I believe we egg box children and generations to understand different topics. By you're 14, you will know this, and 15, you will know that, and 16, if you don't know it, you're an idiot. And it's literally. I think there's a lot of egg boxing of children and younger generations, and I think that what AI will do is it will empower us to be able to individualize learning, and AI will be able to develop with. I've got stepchildren. I've got an 8 and a 12-year-old. I've watched AI that I've built very simplistically help our 8-year-old child develop their reading skills, but work with them through those reading skills, because it's learning with them, and it's helping them genuinely. And I see a future where AI will really be able to individualize learning like we've never been able to see before. And on that note, I think that AI will be able to maybe deliver some of the more complex topics to students of all generations, and then I think that teachers will still have a role. I believe that teachers will be there to deliver those soft skills, how to interact, how to communicate, how to go and shake somebody's hand at a meeting, how to be fun, how to play sports, how to have all those soft skills still. And I think that will become the strongest for the humans. I think the AI will make generations really smart as well, a lot smarter.
Yeah. No, that those are good points, Vicky. So what we've done as well is we've rephrased soft skills. We now call them human skills.
I like that.
Just because all humans should have these skills. But no, on a serious point, I think you bring up a valid point there, and AI is here to stay, and how we're educating our kids is really, really important. There is this fear, I guess, from some that, do we really want AI to educate our kids? But I think what you're advocating for is actually AI has a part to play, and we're not saying that AI is going to totally educate the next generation, but it's
No.
important that they know how to use the tech and how to live with the tech. And it's interesting because if you think about this, before AI has been the hot topic for the past 12, 18 months, we used to talk about the next generation coming through, and particularly, and I love the fact that what you've spoken to on this episode actually applies to everyone. Most of our listeners are in the project profession. However, they will go away and they'll share this with those that are outside the project profession. But if we do bring it back just slightly into how we deliver projects better using the skills you've just spoken about, I think it's also important that we recognize that it's not just the young generation, those coming through, but those that are currently in the workspace, because it's, as Martin was saying, it's such a rapidly changing environment. And, not just teachers, but how do project professionals stay relevant? Now, particularly, we've all been there in organizations and projects where, we've got the project director that said, I've done it this way for 20 odd years. Why should I change when it's not Why fix something that's not broken?
Mm.
And it's not trying to convince that person, I don't think, but it's how do you encourage that type of person to go, actually, you know what, pick up the skill because this is how it would help you. And I think it's a struggle, if I'm honest with you, the
Yeah,
adoption of technology, particularly in our industry, and not necessarily because people don't want to, but a lot of the time it's because, one, they don't have the time, and two, they
yeah,
don't know where to start. So
yeah,
starting off for someone that's, got a 15, 20-year odd career already is probably a very different starting place because you
yeah.
don't have the time and you don't know where to start. Would your answer still be the same if you're giving them advice on where to start?
I think, you know, I got into technology mainly when I was like age 38. So I'm kind of, I'm becoming more sort of senior in my career. I was in a senior position as well, so I do relate to that. Um, and I think no, the answer wouldn't be. I think at that point you just kind of you just kind for me, I got to a point where I was just trying to get through the day as quick as possible to kind of go and have my life as well. I want to do a great job at work, and I want to balance that with a great life in my personal life as well. Um, for me, you don't have to go and do like lots of formal qualifications and things like that. But I would say that when I started, like, let's for example, I started playing with OpenAI because ChatGPT wasn't there. There wasn't ChatGPT or Claude or all these other models that are out there now. I started going to sort of ground. You don't have to do that now. What you can do, you can just like literally create an account with, let's say, ChatGPT or Claude, and you can literally just start to have a conversation and see where it takes you. Um, what my recommendation is for somebody that's not that bought in by this stuff, and actually, I've done this is the way I've always done this, so this is the way it shall always be done. Is just type into, let's say, ChatGPT, the free version. This is the way I've always done this, and just list a few of the things that you've always done, and just ask ChatGPT, how can I do it quicker? And it might be able to give you some great examples of how you can do certain tasks quicker. It might not, but at least you've given it a go. We're at the dawn of, somebody actually said it yesterday, we're at the dawn of because you see so much of it in social media, at the dawn of the internet. The internet was the devil. The computer was the devil. It's the same thing. But actually AI's been around since the 50s. It's always been here. It's just got it's getting great ads now. That's all it is. It's just got a new brand manager. So, you know, just give it a go. If my argument to it is, if you can do something faster, if you can be more productive, if you can have more personal time to learn, study, forget about all of that crap. Spend more time with your family, kick back, read a book, read Harry Potter for the 5th time, whatever you're doing, watch Game of Thrones, whatever, bit of EastEnders. If you can do all of that while the AI is doing the rest, why wouldn't you? Give it a go. And if you don't like it, hey, Terminator's not coming yet. But remember always to say please and thank you.
What good advice. Remember to always say please, not just to AI, but to
Mhm.
human intelligence as well. Please and
Humans
thank you
as well, exactly.
goes a
Exactly.
long, long way. Yeah. Manners, manners.
Manners.
Absolutely. So, look, it's great. I think there's a lot for people to digest from what you've said. I think for me, certainly, it's been great to get back to the basics because, like I say, we've gone along this journey and we've been very fortunate. And Martin, myself, and Val are we're hugely grateful for the opportunity we had to talk to guests like yourselves because we've been on this journey the past 12, 18 months, and we are in an echo chamber, but we recognize there's a lot of people that haven't yet started that journey or just starting on the journey. So thank you for bringing us back to basics. And I know you're far more advanced than just the basics. And please do reach out to Vicky if you want to have more. Just follow on LinkedIn. She puts some fantastic things out there. Some of them are hilarious. They get me laughing, Vicky, some of the stuff you put out. But it's also amazing how you get to do that as well. Look, as we head towards the end of the podcast, we want to, this is your first time you're coming on the Project Chatter podcast. So we want to take you through Fiverr, which is a pop quiz that we have. And it's designed to fire some quick fire questions at you. If you're up for it, I'll hand you over to Machine Gun Martin.
This was a missell, wasn't it? Someone missold something. No disclaimer. Go, Martin.
Okay. Let's go. Number one. What's your one piece of advice for people new to AI?
Do it.
Brilliant. Number two. What's the biggest misconception about AI?
It's going to take over the world.
Number three. A good leader's born or made?
Oh, made.
Interesting. What would be your book recommendation to our listeners?
Ready Player 1 and 2.
Nice. And finally, hopefully this will be clean. What was your last ChatGPT prompt?
Oh, you fighter. ChatGPT, please make me a millionaire.
What did ChatGPT say? I'm intrigued.
Absolutely not.
Really?
No, I'm only joking. No, I think my last prompt to ChatGPT is what actually was it? Oh, I think it was to write me an email to a job ad. It was actually to write me an email to a job ad. So
Really?
it was pretty boring, but I think making me a millionaire is so much more exciting. Try it. ChatGPT, give me 10 ways to become a millionaire online. It will give you some good ideas.
There must be people that have done that. I wonder if there's any ChatGPT millionaires out there. Yeah, I mean, if there are, they probably won't be listening to the Project Chatter podcast. But
No.
if there's a small, tiny fraction of a percentage that you are a ChatGPT millionaire listening to the Project Chatter podcast, get in touch with us. We'd love to know.
Yeah.
Let Vicky know. Vicky wants to know how to be a millionaire. Yeah,
we could do it all together. We could talk about it. They could talk about it.
Exactly. No, look, Vicky, thank you for being such a good sport and going through Fiverr there. And as I say, as we're heading towards the end of the podcast, are there any sort of final areas you want to cover for those listening? You've covered the basics. I think, those are maybe inspired now to start, whether they're, starting their career or have, a couple of decades of experience. Is there anything final you want to cover, just to kind of leave them with some lasting thoughts?
Yeah, I think, no, thank you, Dad. I think it's just a case of just don't be frightened of change. It's a really difficult thing. But it isn't, don't be frightened of change, is all I'd say. Embrace it, have fun with it. It was the best thing I could have ever done is giving it a go. I think there was fear for me, thinking that, oh my God, what am I doing? I felt a bit nervous around it and felt like, everybody's going to be better at this than me. But actually, you know what? It's not a competition. Just give it a go and see where it takes you and enjoy it. Don't ignore it. Is all I'd say. Just be you and have fun with it. Because it is a great space to be in. Just playing with ChatGPT and Claude and even Copilot. Just have fun with it. Go into some just genuine prompts. I mean, the other day I created a tour guide for Mars from a little robot. Yeah, little tour guide for Mars, and literally just put it into Copilot saying, "Create me a tour guide for Mars," and it literally did it, and it it meant nothing to no one. It will go nowhere, but it was just fun and it made me smile. And if that can do that for you, then just do it, because we all need more smiles.
You know what? You never know. Elon might be taking people to Mars.
He could be listening to this right now.
Yeah, Sir Richard Branson might be taking people to Mars.
Richard, Elon, I'm here whenever you're
You want to
ready.
go?
Tour
Yeah.
guides here.
But I think if there's one person you've definitely inspired, it's probably Martin. Martin, you got to give it a go, right? Stop
Definitely,
fearing the
keen
tech.
for this, yeah.
Be creative, have fun, make mistakes on it. The great thing with AI, I think, Vicky, is that it's not like humans where it bites back at you if you make mistakes.
Exactly.
It's quite forgiving. So
it's completely forgiving.
as long as you do your pleases and thank yous, right? As long as you've got your manners.
Yeah. Apart from when it goes a bit like sort of Skynet, then you're best to just sort of be pleased, thank you, if you could.
Exactly. Well, look, it's been amazing to talk to you for the best part of an hour, Vicky. Like I say, we've spoken some time now on getting you on the podcast, and we almost didn't have you on the pod, but you found the link in your spam filter, which is amazing. Thank you, Vicky's AI. It's been an absolute pleasure, like I say, and privilege to speak with you. Before we let you go, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
No, just have lots of fun with it, guys, and just enjoy life, enjoy learning and just have fun, but don't put any pressure on yourselves. That's the key, because there is a lot of pressure out there that everybody's got to keep so up to date that they feel like they're going to lose their jobs. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And AI will not take over your job.
It will not
improve.
take your job.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I'd love AI to take all of our jobs and we don't have to work. So that would be amazing.
Put a feet up.
Exactly.
Okay.
But look, it's been awesome. We're not going to keep you much longer because thank you so much for giving up your time. I know that it is late for you as well. So we really, really appreciate you spending some time with us and sharing your thoughts on the Project Chatter podcast. But there you have it, folks. That is the end of this episode. And remember, if you do like what you've heard, please do help us pay it forward and share a link to this episode on your favorite social media. Once again, a massive thank you to our guest on this episode, Vicky Emerson, and thank you all for listening. Till next time, we say stay safe, be disruptive, and have fun doing it. From me and Vartan, it's bye for now.